Hey, it's Karen from Scarlette Coaching, and I'd like to start by talking to you guys today about the subject of belt and power. So often singers come to me and they want to work on their belt and they want to work on their power. And that's great, but it's really important to understand A, why, and B, to understand that we have to approach the holistics of that subject matter. So, when we think about great singers, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Ariana Grande, whoever it is for you, Freddie Mercury, we think about these guys being able to sing these massive, really powerful and impressive high notes. But the truth is, that's not all of what they're doing. Now, these incredible singers, what's impressive about what they do is that they are able to take us on such an emotional journey, and that's not just about these massive moments. So it's easy to think about a singer like Aretha Franklin and just associate her with really high impressive belting, but the truth is, when you actually really listen to these guys, there is so much more to their technique. One of my favourite albums of all time is Whitney Houston's The Bodyguard. And this album expresses what I'm talking about here exactly as I'd like to express it. So if you take one of her ballads, I Have Nothing or I Want to Run to You, perfect example. So in these songs, she literally takes you on a roller coaster. It's not just about these big moments. And what those big moments are about is about matching the intensity of the feelings in the song with the voice. So when we think about programs like The Voice or X Factor, what these shows have done is teach singers that it's all about just this big moment in a song where you belt as high and as loud as you possibly can. And we're told that that's what impressive singing is. But there is so much more to it than that. So, what's happened is that there is this immense pressure on singers that to be good, you have to be able to sing these massive, high, loud notes. And like I say, it's not as simple as that. But what happens with that pressure is that it's really easy to kind of make your singing all about trying to be able to match these massive moments. But the other thing I'd like to talk to you about here is that when you listen to a singer on a record, you're not listening to the real picture. These guys have got compression on their voice, they've got reverb, they've got delay, they've got all kinds of effects. Some of them are chinned. They're also mixed, so you've got the volume being changed in the studio. Now, if you want to listen to a singer properly and get a real gauge of what they're doing in a song, I would really recommend getting on YouTube and checking out what they do in live performances. So talking about Whitney Houston, there is an incredible performance of her singing I Will Always Love You, and it's on the VH1 Divas Live 1998, I think, and you'll find that on YouTube. And again, if you watch her singing I Will Always Love You, she takes you, it's the drama she creates, and she does that with just an incredible tapestry of technique and different ways of drawing you in, so that you get pulled in. And that's what it's about. It's about making your listener feel something. But when we've got all of this expectation, all of this pressure on us as singers, what happens is we try. Two things actually happen. Number one, you kind of think of these big moments in the song like a really, really scary thing. And if you look at my body language, that's exactly what happens. Shoulders come up, it gets really scary, it gets really tense. And what that does is that creates all of this tension, shallow breathing, exactly where we don't want it, okay? So one of the things that happens to singers is that they try really hard because they wanna get to this point in the song, get the listener to think they're amazing and get approval. So in that trying, two things can happen. You can over-pressurize your vocal cords by pushing too much air, or you can squeeze your throat shut. Same thing, too much pressure. And what happens is, your vocal folds, they just can't cope with it. And that's when you start getting in danger of getting problems and getting all kinds of potential, other serious things like nodules or calluses. And we don't want to go there. So one of the things I'm always talking to you guys about is starting off with a song and finding that point of ease. So that's where you've got to start before you start doing this, because what happens is singers think that singing is all about this. They don't properly train their voices. They don't really understand it, and they try. And then when they try, they can then fail. Your voice can crack, you can feel it, it hurts, you're not singing right, and your confidence dips. And that just creates this really nasty negative loop of, bad mindset. So if you believe that something is hard and that you can't do it, you won't be able to do it, and it's as simple as that. Doesn't matter how good your technique is. If your mindset is wrong and you think it's hard and you think you won't be able to do it, you just won't. So one of the things I would like you guys to do this week is to check in with your mindset on singing your exercises, singing your songs. And I also want you looking in the mirror, okay? So if you know that you are scared of high notes, I don't want you to avoid them. What I want you to do is just do some simple exercises just to take you through your range, okay? And if you have problems with that, that's fine. Drop me a message and we'll look at smoothing out your range. That's a different conversation. But right now, I just want you getting confidence singing throughout your range, okay? So another great exercise for that is sirens. Because if you find this scary, you need to work on it, because you want to have access to all of your voice, not just this part, and not just this part in a small way, which is, the subject of belt. You want to be able to have a great strong head voice. You want to be able to have a good mix. You want to have access to all these different techniques with your singing. So I would like you this week to just be doing some simple exercises. So just a 5-note exercise, an arpeggio. These sirens are amazing for this. So just on the subject of sirens, you don't need a keyboard for this, you don't need a backing track. You can just start somewhere comfortable in your range, and you just do a small slide if you want, or a full slide. So you can just go, ooh, move it up a little bit, ooh. And then when you feel really confident, you can maybe go all the way through your range. So, ooh. You can also start high and come low. So you could go, but one of the great things about sirening is it stops you being scared of using this part of your voice. It stops you being scared of high notes. Okay, one last thing I'd like you to do is when you're doing all of this, so singing your exercises, singing your sirens, singing your songs, I'd like you to look in the mirror, okay? So one of the things I see singers do all the time is this. They're singing a scale and their eyes go up and they're looking up as they're singing the scale. And they kind of lift up their bodies as they go higher. And if it gets really scary, then their shoulders come up. So we want to start thinking about notes in our range going to the side. Singing for singers, we're not like other instruments, okay? We don't want to think about notes going up or down. We want to think about them going to the side. So as you go higher, it's useful to actually be thinking about going down and to the side. Likewise, when you go down in your range, it's useful to be thinking about the energy and the sound going forward. And the reason for that is because we don't want our larynx moving too much, okay? So you don't need your larynx to be bobbing up and down when you sing high and low. So as I said, look in the mirror as you do these exercises. Watch for things like your eyes moving up. Watch for things like your shoulders moving up. And if that starts to happen, when you'd normally start looking up, consciously take your gaze elsewhere. Look down and to the left maybe. Look down and to the right. Roll your shoulders. You can also move around the room. You don't have to stand still rigid on the spot when you sing. We want our bodies to be loose and relaxed. So if you feel like that walking around, walk around, that's fine. If you need to look left and right to stop your throat getting too tense, keep your neck moving, that's absolutely fine too. So half of the battle with singing is definitely awareness of what's going on and what's going wrong. The other part is your mindset and the holistics of it. And of course that involves the singing as well. So that's my coaching tip for this week. I've now got some questions. If you guys have got any last minute questions, feel free to pop them in the comments now. But the two questions I was going to answer today that I received on email was firstly from, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is it Mari or is it Marie? Marie or Mari Gordon. Okay, so your question was, here we go. When you start singing, when I started singing, how did I gain confidence? What would you recommend us beginners to do? Okay, so I have, and this isn't a shameless plug, it's just because it will be useful. I have written an entire ebook on this, guys, and at the moment I'm kind of giving away a stripped down version of it for free, so I'm going to chuck a link to that in this post. Really good question, and it's like everything, you know, there's not a simple answer, and what I would recommend is being really systematic with it. So again, singers, we kind of expect things to just happen. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with singers and they just sort of try and avoid things. I recently, I didn't work with her on her vocals, I worked with her on an album project, but this was a singer who had a whole album of vocals to do, and there were some really challenging songs on this album. And she was due to do her vocals in like a month because we were working on the music before she did the vocals. And I could tell that she was really, really nervous about this. She was really intimidated by these songs, wasn't feeling great about it. You know, whenever she came to sing, didn't feel right. She was getting sore throats. Everything was going wrong. But rather than actually try and work on this and actually rehearse the material, she actually just avoided it for the full month. And of course, sort of was hoping that magically she'd show up, and when she stood in front of the microphone, you know, it would just happen and she'd feel it, and because she felt it, she'd be able to deliver it. In reality, that isn't what happened, and that rarely ever happens. So what I'd say to you is I would literally approach it with a little plan. So, you know, if you have the goal or the aspiration to, you know, you want to do a big gig in front of hundreds of people, that's great. Have that as like a master goal, but let's start off much smaller, you know, break it down into steps. And I'd say sort of a realistic time frame would be 3 months. So literally grab out your calendar, mark somewhere a date in the calendar 3 months from now. I know it's hard because of COVID, but there's no reason you couldn't, you know, do a Facebook Live. There's no reason that you couldn't do a FaceTime call or a Zoom and invite friends and family. It doesn't matter, but you know, the first sort of performance that you put in the diary should be something small. It should be something really safe, not too challenging. You know, in a situation where you've got as much control over it as possible. So I would literally start by putting that in the diary. Next thing you're going to want to do is obviously think about, well, what is that? Is it 1 song? Is it 2 songs? Is it 3 songs? 4 songs? 5 songs? 6 songs? You know, what does it look like? Again, if it's your very first performance, I would start very small. You know, an open mic night would be perfect for this because you've got some anonymity there. Everybody there is in the same boat. And you usually generally get 2 songs on a night like that, and of course you can take your friends and family for support. So let's say 2 songs, and again I would pick 2 songs that are well within your comfort zone. When you're nervous of performing and you're starting out and you're looking to build your confidence, the way that we do that is by stacking up good experiences. What happens when things start crashing down is, you know, you walk out the door and you know you can sing this stuff great in your living room, fabulous, and you go and do a gig, stage fright kicks in, it doesn't go to plan, it feels like it was horrendous, oh it's terrible, and your confidence takes a huge dip. What we want to do is start out small, okay? So 2 songs, really comfortable, very much in your comfort zone, that you know you can sing well, okay? And of course, you know, go through the process of checking in with these 2 songs, go through them again, make sure you can sing them, make sure there's no tricky bits, really take the time to connect to these songs emotionally as well, okay? So what's the story? Who are you singing it to? Who is the character singing it? What's it about? You know, are you sort of talking to someone on the sofa? Is it someone, are you writing them a letter? You know, what's the scene? I really like to imagine I'm working on a music video when I do that. It just really helps me. So I kind of take myself into a whole film, so I really connect to this narrative and the character in the song that's singing it. Because when you stand there in front of people, you need to be able to let go to this story. You need to remember that singing is bigger than you. It's bigger than your ego stood there, you delivering it. It's about the story, because that's ultimately what your job is as a singer, is to tell a story and to make someone feel it. And when you do that, that's when you have success. That's when you are an incredible singer. And as I said a million times before, it's not just about being able to sing those big songs, flashy moments. When we talk about singers like John Lennon, compared to Freddie Mercury, of course there is no comparison. But can you compare Imagine to Bohemian Rhapsody? Well, of course you can't. But they both have the power to make people cry, And that's what it's about, because ultimately, would I call John Lennon a great singer? Absolutely not. Was he a great writer, artist, storyteller? Absolutely. So I would go through that process. And literally, if we're thinking about it in 3 months, you want to make sure that you know these songs inside out. And I mean where you're doing ad-libs, where to breathe, the story, all of that stuff. And then in your 3-month program, think about where you're going to have dress rehearsals, okay? And on the dress rehearsals, you want to be under a little bit of stress. So I would advise you to maybe invite a friend, your mum, your dad, someone who it's scary to perform in front of them, but it's not so scary that you freeze. And from that, you can start building these positive experiences. And that's what we want to do. And likewise, when you get to that gig, don't expect that you're going to walk out the very first time and be like, I've arrived, I'm amazing, it's incredible. It might be, hope so, but that might not be the case. It might take you 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 gigs to start that process of building your confidence. This is something that I had to work on for years. The great thing about that is that I really did develop a system of how to overcome this stuff, which is fabulous from the point of view of a teacher. But don't expect it to happen overnight, because these things do take time. Okay, so who else have we got? Any extra tips on improving range, please? Absolutely, Darren. Yep, what I will do is, I won't cover that now. I'll do a video with an exercise, like a range building exercise for that one. That's fine. We'll get back to that one. Okay, so Karen is saying that she has trouble with fast lyrics, trying not to get too tongue-tied or out of breath. Okay, Karen, so I would say to you, approach this like you would if you were playing the guitar or you were playing the piano. Okay, something else singers do, right, is that they don't think of themselves enough as musicians. So if I'm learning a new song on the guitar and it's fast and it's challenging, I wouldn't go, right, well, I've got to play it at 120 BPM and that's it, because that's how fast the song is, so that's how fast I'm going to do it. I would take that song, I would really slow it down, okay? And whether that's with backing tracks or me just playing it, and I would slow it down until I've got my left hand technique right, until I've got my right hand technique right. So Karen, I'd say to you, either get a metronome out, work out the speed of how fast you want it to be, and then take it down 20, 30 beats per minute, whatever. If you're working with a backing track, or if you're working with a YouTube backing track, you can actually slow it down in the YouTube settings, that's fine. But slow it down and work on it piece by piece. So don't start straight out, trying to sing it. Speak it first and do it really slowly. And when you're speaking it, mark where your breaths are first of all. Don't sing it, as I've said, speak it, mark your breaths, get that bit in place, because that's obviously important so that you rehearse where to breathe, okay? And I would say gradually then speed it up. Once you've got your head around it and it's nice and slow and you've got the rhythm and you're doing it a cappella or with a metronome or a backing track, whatever, gradually speed it up, which is exactly what you would do if you were working on a piano piece or a guitar piece. Okay, so John had one more question. Two more questions. Right, so Tarina, how do you prevent vocals getting tired during performances? Okay, so let's think about that question. Right, first of all, if I'm going to sing a gig for 2 hours or 2.5 hours, 3 hours, whatever, I'm going to leave that gig with a level of vocal fatigue, because I'm a human being, and I'm not a robot, okay? So if you do anything for 2 hours or more, you are going to be tired afterwards, okay? So if you get to the end of a gig and it's a 2-hour gig and you're vocally tired, that's fine. That is just what happens. If we're talking about vocals, you know, your voice getting tired after 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then there's something going on. You've either got a technique issue, which you need to work on, or you need to build your stamina, or maybe both. So I would say, Tarina, book a vocal assessment and let's try and figure out what's going on with that. So last question, John. John says, he's wondering about the key. He's found a favoured key to singing, so should he try transposing the songs he wants to sing? And is this something he should do with every song? How do I go about singing a different key? For me, that would be a higher one, question mark. I sometimes have trouble with the higher one as I lose power and tone. Okay, great question. So yes, when it comes to songs, you absolutely should consider making sure that the key fits your voice, okay? We are human beings. I mean, musical theatre is different, as is opera. You know, you have to just be able to sing it. You know, that's just the way that it is, and that's why these guys train like they do. Part of what they're doing is training so that they can step into any of those roles, and that is an incredible thing to be able to do, and it's what professional singers can do. However, when you are approaching vocals from the point of view of an artist or a pop stance or country or rock or whatever, you want to be able to tailor it to yourself, okay? It's the difference of getting a suit off the peg and, you know, or a wedding dress off the peg, or, you know, getting that dress or that suit tailored to fit your body. Now, I don't need to explain why that's better. If something is tailored to fit you, it's going to look better, it's going to sound better, it's going to feel better. And that's exactly the same thing with songs. So yes, in an ideal world, when you're singing any song, you know, any new song, you want to spend some time making sure that the key is right. How do you do that? So I would say to you, sing it through in the normal key. And what you're looking out for is, does that bit feel a bit low? Oh, yeah. Is that bit feeling a bit high? Yeah. Okay. So if it's feeling a little bit low, what you can do is, if you've got a backing track, you can get software to transpose backing tracks. I use Logic. I think GarageBand can do it too, but I'm sure if you Google it, certain karaoke machines allow you to do that as well. So try transposing it up a semitone, or up 2 semitones, a tone, you know, up 3 semitones. See what happens. Don't be afraid with your singing to play and to try, okay? And what you're looking for, so if you go up just 1 semitone and that feels better, great. But don't be afraid to still try it up 2 semitones, because you're looking for that sweet spot. You know, you think of yourself as Goldilocks, right? We want to find that just right bit. Now, in terms of, you know, should you just take every single song and put them in the same key? Absolutely not, because songs have different melodies. Now, you probably will find that there'll be a trend in key, but don't just get lazy with that. Don't just go, well, I sing songs in G. It doesn't work like that, because it totally depends on the melody of the song, okay? So in an ideal world, you'd be able to have a keyboard and just play some simple chords and just simply sort of like just hold a chord and sing the song, or same with the guitar. But if that's not the case, I would strongly recommend that you either work on it with a musician friend or take it to a singing teacher, just someone who can play the song in a few different keys for you so that you can figure out the correct key for you. Now, if you know, if when you're singing your song and you're finding that you're losing power, or you're losing some of the tone of your voice when you're singing higher, I mean, that's obviously an entirely different conversation. And you will find some songs that there's just not much you can do about it. Some songs are just really hard, and as much as you're still trying to find that sweet spot in key, there's still probably going to be some moments in that song where you need to work on your technique, you need to work on how you can sing it. You know, also don't be afraid to change the tune slightly, that's okay as well. You know, there's no, especially around pop music, there's no law written around that. It's better if you do. You know, who wants to hear a carbon copy of someone else's song? Try and bring your own individuality to your singing and your songs, because people don't want to hear, you know, a carbon copy of that singer. They want to hear your artistry, your take on it, and that's what makes it exciting when you listen to someone new. So yeah, if you're struggling with some notes in the song at that point, that's when you need to take it to a coach, or or a singing teacher or whatever, and have them help you with that point in the song. So guys, I hope that has helped. Thank you for joining me. And yeah, I shall see you in 2 weeks for the next coaching session. So if you do have any questions, or you have something you want to work on, please feel free to let me know. Something else I want to talk to you guys about is whether or not you want to maybe explore joining me on a live video and actually singing, so I can give you live feedback as you sing. So let me know what you think of that idea, and I shall see you very soon. Take care.